And I'll throw out a different combo.
Okay.
I think you're going to love it. Okay. You could have the career and earnings of Julian Edelman of the Patriots or Bradley Beal,
the
basketball player for the Suns.
Bradley Beal's probably made $200 million more than Julian Edelman.
I think you're correct. I have Julian Edelman making about just under $50 million, and Bradley Beal makes that in 8 months.
He makes that in 1 year.
Correct. Let's say
he made that in injured games this year.
Right.
In games he didn't play this year, he made just about that much money.
Would you, if I said you're going to make $250 million and no titles, and you're going to do it in obscurity, nobody's going to remember you, or Edelman, who had one of the best postseason careers in NFL history? Paulie?
I can't believe I'm saying this, and I don't know if I'm lying to myself, but I'm taking Julian Edelman's career.
Okay. Seton, you taking Edelman, or you taking Bradley Beal for $200 million more?
I would take Edelman because I understand that $250 million is a lot of money, but 50-something, what is it? How much did he have?
50.
$50 million is also an unbelievable amount of money, and most of my career was spent being awesome or on an awesome team. Hell yeah, I'll take that.
Marvin,
all day.
what about you?
I can't believe I'm saying this. I'm with the other guys. I'm going Julian Edelman. And also because of the money that you can make post-career.
Yeah, okay, but Bradley Beal's got a big head start on the amount of money that Julian Edelman is going to make.
Edelman could make money post-career. Bradley Beal could just look at his money post-career.
Yes. I'm taking Bradley Beal at $250 million.
Good for you, being honest.
Yes. I get to shoot as much as I want. That's all I care about. I get to score, and I'm going to have $250 million. I mean, it's nice. I'll congratulate you on your titles while I'm on my yacht. All right.
We may have been lying.
I think you guys were lying.
I don't think that we were. $54 million is an unbelievable amount of money.
Okay.
It is.
You know what? Let me ask a journalist, Frank Isola. He is covering the NBA, covering the Knicks, Pacers, contributor to Around the Horn. Pardon the interruption. All right, Frank. If I said you could have Bradley Beal's career and money or Julian Edelman's career?
Yeah, I'd probably take Dan Patrick's career and money, but in this case, and your crew is nuts, I'm taking Bradley Beal. Number one, think about the money. So clearly, do they have a significant other in their life, a wife, a girlfriend, parents? They would tell them, are you nuts? Take the 250. It's generational money. Who cares about you won a championship? I get it. I'd love to play with Tom Brady too. I'm taking the money. I agree with you, Dan.
Okay, where do you stand on this whole Austin Rivers discussion that he had with Pat McAfee on how many players in the NBA do you think, if I gave them a year, could play in the NFL?
I think you could find a few that could do it. I mean, Paolo Banchero and LeBron James couldn't play tight end. Tight end would seem to be the one position that you can get guys to play, and maybe defensive back as well. Like, to me, making that transition from being an NBA player to maybe playing football is more realistic than thinking they're going to play hockey, tennis, golf, soccer. I mean, there are unique skill sets that you need for that. And that's not to say NFL players aren't skilled, but you don't think all these great athletes we have in the NBA, not one of them could be a defensive back, not one of them could be a tight end? Who knows? Jason Tatum could be the next Harold Carmichael. Who knows?
He's having a hard time being the original Jason Tatum.
True.
Okay,
That's true.
Explain this to me. We have a large sample size with the Celtics. And I know it's recency bias after last night, but they got blown out by 24 at home by an undermanned Cleveland team. I know it's one game, but it feels like it's more than that because it goes back to what we've seen where they love the three. They live and die by it, and they don't adjust when they don't make it.
I agree. I'm texting my radio partner, Brian Scalabrine, because I'm always killing him about the Celtics. I said, your team is so soft. He didn't respond, which told me a lot. I look at the Eastern Conference. It's like one tough team mentally and physically, especially now that Miami's gone, and that's the New York Knicks. I mean, if you're the Boston Celtics, at what point – they're just launching up threes. They're not getting it done on defense. They don't play with any emotion. The buildings seem to be dead. And haven't they learned their lesson? They lost game 1 in the second round last year to Philadelphia, and that was without Embiid. They lost games 1 and 2 at home to Miami in the Eastern Conference Finals. This year they lost game 2 to Miami. That to me was a surprise. It's not so much about the result. Anybody could lose. it was, to your point, more about the performance. And there's such a big team. I don't understand why they don't try to exploit mismatches, throw the ball into the post, whether it's Drew Holiday on Darius Garland or Jason Tatum on Max Strus. Try to do something like that. The way that they were shooting last night, where it's all about three-pointers, and the way that they were defending, it's hard to see them winning a championship.
Also, I don't know where you stand with athletes' post-game press conferences. Jason Tatum is even keel. Now, we might compliment that and say, hey, you know what? Doesn't get too high, too low. You know, I like to have that passion. I like when it bothers you, it hurts you, it angers you, you're fired up. I'd love for Jason Tatum to just say, this won't happen again. I won't allow this to happen again.
I kind of agree with you, and I think you see that on the court as well, because I was saying to Brian Scalabrine, who played with Jason Kidd in New Jersey and then got to play with Kevin Garnett in Boston, like those guys would not settle for something like that. And Jason Tatum after the game saying everyone expects us to win every game by a blowout. No, we don't. But we expect better effort from you guys, especially a team that won 64 games during the regular season. And they have a chance to put, Cleveland would have been on the ropes. And remember, Cleveland in the first round, they went to Orlando 3 times, and they didn't win a game in Orlando. So they came into the Boston Garden, the ghosts of, Bill Russell and Larry Bird and Paul Pierce, and they took them out pretty easily.
Talking to Frank Isola, of course, around the horn on the mothership, pardon the interruption, covering the NBA playoffs. Trying to figure out what Denver team shows up tonight. What do you expect?
I would think, there's been a lot of talk about both Nikola Jokic, what's happened to him in this series, but especially Jamal Murray. Jamal Murray's got to have a better game, especially since he caught a lucky break. He should have been ejected from game 2. He should be suspended for game 3. There has been a little bit more time off now between games 2 and 3. We're going to see what type of team Denver is, because now you're on the road. You at least have to win game 3 to really have a realistic chance of winning. That building tonight's going to be fired up for Minnesota. I don't think they've played at home in about 15 days or so. They're 6-0 in the playoffs, and 4 of those wins have come on the road against Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, the aforementioned Bradley Beal, and of course what they did to the defending champs. I would think that you're going to see a different performance by Denver. The problem that Denver has is that Minnesota has guys that could guard Nikola Jokic, including Naz Reid, even Karl-Anthony Towns a bit, and then they got Rudy Gobert hanging around the rim getting ready to clean everything up.
I said this the other day, caught a little heat, but I stand by it. I don't think the Joker wins another MVP. And
after this year.
Yes, but it's nothing against him. In fact, like LeBron hasn't won one in over a decade. Like at one point, it stopped with Michael, and they gave it to Charles and gave it to Karl Malone. Like the media moves on. They can't wait for Anthony Edwards, Ja Morant coming back. Maybe it's Lucas. Like it feels like the Joker had his run here. And it might be the ultimate compliment of he probably can't out-Joker himself.
Yeah, I think there's some truth to that. I have a vote. Last year I voted for Embiid. This year I voted for Nikola Jokic. The one that stands out the most for me, and I don't remember having a vote back then, was the year that Karl Malone won it instead of Michael Jordan. And it did really feel as if the media was saying, Karl Malone's been so good for so long. The Utah Jazz have been this really good team. It was almost like a lifetime achievement MVP for Carmelo. I think there's a lot of truth to that. I thought it was going to be a little bit closer this year, especially with the fact that Oklahoma City had the great year. Oklahoma City came out of nowhere, but when you do look at a lot of the numbers, including how the Denver Nuggets are on the court and when Jokic is there and when he's on the bench, it's pretty glaring. But I think there's some truth to that. I also think he's the kind of guy, he doesn't want to get wrapped up in it. Obviously, he thought the debate last year, you could tell he was uncomfortable with that. I thought at times it got a little distasteful, the whole thing with him and Embiid. But I'll tell you what, he'll catch a lot of heat if they get knocked out pretty quickly in this series, just like Embiid caught some heat last year for getting bounced out in the second round.
All right, explain to me, if you're vetting Frank Vogel, that you see or don't see something in 1 year that you basically say, you know what, we made a mistake giving you a 5-year deal. You're the reason to blame for the Phoenix Suns. And you fire him. How does that happen after 1 year?
Yeah, to me, it kind of says that they don't know what they're doing in Phoenix from this standpoint, because when there was talk about them getting Bradley Beal and you looked at their roster and you're thinking, well, why do they really need him for? You have Devin Booker, Kevin Durant. You're going to give up all these assets to get a guy that has been hurt a lot over the last few years, hasn't won a lot of games. And you look at the way the roster was constructed, and to say, is Frank Vogel the perfect coach for that team? I would have no idea. But to put it all on him doesn't make sense. And Frank Vogel, what was it, a 5-year, $31 million contract he's walking away with? But Phoenix is in a bad spot because, come on, Dan, look at what's going on in the NBA. You know, Steph didn't even make the playoffs. LeBron, Anthony Davis are out. Kawhi and the Clippers are out. Damian Lillard and Giannis are out. And obviously Kevin Durant and the Phoenix Suns are out. There does seem to be a shift happening in the NBA with younger teams, and having what Minnesota, like, I would rather have Jaden McDaniels and, you know, Naz Reid than have Bradley Beal on my team. I don't really need that. So I think the smarter teams are looking to fill out their roster with, you know, hard playing role players. Look at the New York Knicks. They got the one star on the team in Jalen Brunson, who's had this breakout year. But those other guys like Dante DiVincenzo, Josh Hart, Isaiah Hartenstein are just physically and mentally tough, hard playing guys.
Speaking of the Knicks series, how surprised were you that Rick Carlisle wasn't fined for his small market comments talking about the NBA?
Yeah, I really was. I think David Stern definitely would have hit him. I like what Rick Carlisle did. I think it was smart from this standpoint. He's not going to sit there after the game and start calling out Miles Turner for not getting rebounds and Tyrese Halliburton for being terrible in game 1 and game 2. He didn't really do much in the fourth quarter. And I think he knows that everything is about tonight. Everything's about game 3. So, and I've been to play at Pacer playoff games in Indiana before. The crowd is going to be absolutely on fire. They're playing for their season tonight. I think it was the right tone to set, putting all the pressure on him, having everybody talk about the officials. And you know this, I've been in Portland for playoff games before, and the first bad call that goes against the Portland Trailblazers, they start, chanting, "These refs stink." All the small market teams are convinced that the league has it out for them. So I think Rick Carlisle was playing to his audience, and I think you'll see the reaction tonight in Indiana.
Yeah, I expect them to win, but they should have won one of these 2 games in New York.
You're
right. So I think that Rick has taken the pressure off his team by putting it on himself and the referees. Is this sustainable with what the Knicks are doing, given Tibbs' rotation is maybe 6 players and OG is not going to play in game 3? Is it?
Yeah. The problem is that he's playing his backups right now because these were the guys that were, filling in for guys that got hurt. So now you start going to your, third string guys, and they're not going to be as good. It's funny. We had talked about the idea of sitting Jalen Brunson. This is before we knew that OG Anunoby wouldn't play, sitting him for a game. And there is precedence. If you go back to 2001, Philadelphia made the Eastern Conference Finals against Milwaukee. The series was tied at 1-1, and Iverson was taking such a pounding. He was hurting. They actually sat him out in game 3 on the road in Milwaukee. That's a gutsy move. And Philadelphia lost that game. So they were down 2-1 in the series. Iverson came back to play game 4. They won that. They eventually go on to win the series. So if you're the Knicks, I don't know if you ever want to punt a playoff game, but if there was ever a time to maybe rest everybody, especially with OG Anunoby, just play the other guys and almost have like open tryouts for who's going to be our new 6th, 7th, and 8th man for the rest of the series.
Okay, but if you can take one Nick off Celebrity Row and maybe get some minutes out of him, who you taking?
Oh, that's a good one. I'd probably say, because he looks like he's fit, it would be Stephon Marbury, who, by the way, never won a playoff series, never won a playoff game in a Knick uniform. I mean, I know he's getting treated like he's a conquering hero there. It'd probably be him because he looks like he's in the most shape. He's in the best shape, I should
Feels
say.
Like Melo can get about 10 shots off, though, and maybe in about 7
minutes.
Yeah,
but Carmelo will say he wants to start. He doesn't want to come off the bench. That would be a problem.
Have a great weekend, Frank. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Dan. I'll see you guys.
Frank Isola, covering the NBA with Around the Horn, and pardon the interruption.